You're watching the Coaches Roundtable on the Armstrong Neighborhood Channel. Welcome to Coaches Roundtable. I'm Ed Codi, and welcome our guest, Pittsburgh Tribune sports writer and Pitt insider Jerry DePaula. Jerry, it's been a while since we've been together. A lot's been going on with Pitt sports, football, and basketball. Let's start off, take a look at the basketball. Jerry, they jumped off to a great start, 8-2. They've done that now 3 years in a row, and then bingo, 1-7 now these last 8 games. 9-9, 5-8 in the ACC, and in danger of a 5th straight losing season. What are you seeing that is a result of these late season collapses? I think something now like, Jerry, 23 losses late in the season the last 3 years.
Right, they've only won 6 or 7 games after January in the last 3 years under Capel, and of course they were 0-19 in the year before that. And that's the problem, Ed. Jeff Capel inherited a dumpster fire. I mean, I like Kevin Stallings. He was a good guy, but his program, for those 2 years was just the worst, program probably in the country as far as Power 5 schools. And when you go 0-19 in the ACC, you're really bad. And they were really bad. They lost some guys after Stallings left. Marcus Carr, is now at Minnesota. He's one of their best players at Minnesota, and Capel just inherited what he called it himself a dumpster fire. They don't have enough depth. And one of the big things that happened this year, I think, is they don't have anybody in the paint that can really protect the rim.
Rebounding has been terrible.
Terrell Bryan had a good game 2 games ago, and they still lost the game. He wasn't much help the other day when they played Saturday night. And you losing John Ugley, who's been suspended, for most of the season. Big 6'9" kid from Cleveland, who they thought was a very highly regarded recruit. He's been suspended for most of the season, and he hasn't been able to help them. So there's very little depth there. They're getting a little bit back now. Nike Sabandi played pretty well the other night, and Femi Dukale is playing pretty well too, off the bench. But their starters have been pretty good mostly, but just. I'd say they're 1-7 right now in the past 8 games. Overall, they're an average team, and I think they are an average team because they lose all those close games, but at least they're in these games. They gave Virginia a tussle. They gave Florida State a tussle, and Florida State beat Virginia by 21 points.
Well, that Florida State game just showed the difference in the strength up front for the Seminoles as compared to Pitt. Hey, Jerry, let me ask you now, Justin Champagnie, maybe the player of the year in the ACC. What are the chances he doesn't come back to Pitt next year?
Well, I guess it's a possibility. He's probably a guy, if he did go into the draft, I think he would be drafted. I'm not sure how high he'd be drafted, maybe late first round, sometime in the second round for sure. But the funny thing, he was asked about playing against his brother next year. His brother Julian plays at St. John's, and Pitt scheduled a game against St. John's for next season in Madison Square Garden, probably. And he was asked about what it would be like to play against his brother. And he was very enthusiastic about it. He was talking about, I've been talking about this game forever. I've asked coach all the time to schedule St. John's so I can play my brother. I can't wait to play against my brother, twin brother, as a matter of fact. He sounded like he wanted to come back just to play that game. Of course, all things considered,
when they dangle that money in
play
front
one game against St. John's, if the NBA is offering money and they draft them high, they're going to draft them high. And that's the thing. Jeff Capel has a lot of contacts in the NBA, and he'll be able to tell Justin and his family just exactly where they're going to go. If they're going to go high in the draft, if they're going to be, he's not a lottery pick, but if he's going to go fairly high in the draft and get a pretty good payday, I think he's going to go. But if he's going to, be one of those guys that gets picked late in the draft and he's not going to get all that much money, in any case, Ed, he's better off coming back and play one more year at Pitt. I'm not a big NBA guy, and I can't really talk about your basketball talent that much, but he'll be much better off and a much better player his rookie year if he plays one more year at Pitt, in my opinion. And I think in Jeff Capel's opinion and most basketball people's opinion too.
Hey, Jerry, Xavier Johnson, he has good games, then he disappears. And seems at times, to read the body language, he's somewhat disgruntled at times when he comes over to the benches when he fouled out, I believe, against the Notre Dame game. Hearing some talk, he may enter into the transfer portal. What are you hearing?
Well, the transfer portal is something that all coaches hate, and it's so easy for guys to get in it these days. I guess anything's possible, but he's been a Pitt for three seasons, and to go to someplace else, and he probably won't have to sit out because right now you can transfer right away. But it seems to me that he has some equity here, and he's played fairly well here. He's another guy who probably wants to go to the NBA and probably will play in the NBA someday. He'd be better off playing another year. I think he likes Jeff Capel, though. I really do. I think, Capel has built a strong relationship with most of his players. And I think, guys like Champagnie and Johnson like playing for him. Now, again, the lure of the money and maybe the lure of another school offering, I don't know, a better opportunity. I can't see him getting any better opportunity as far as playing time than he has at Pitt right now. Trey Mcgowan's transferred to Nebraska, and he's playing for a lowly Big Ten program. He's no better off, though maybe he thought he was being shoved aside by some of the freshmen coming in. And Pitt does have some fairly respectable and talented freshmen, especially Duke. I think he's going to be a really good player. But I think Johnson, there's a chance anybody could transfer. You never know what these kids are thinking. They don't let you in on their private thoughts. But I think he likes Capel, and I think Capel's going to do everything he can to keep him.
Hey, Jerry, let's move on from basketball. Let's go back to last football season. Pitt 6-5, kind of a funny season. If you want to count that win against Austin P, Pitt routed them 55. And I think they played 4 games, gave up 200 points, and scored one touchdown. But the 5 wins against teams with losing records, the 5 losses all against teams with winning records. Preseason top 25, you didn't vote them in there. You took a little bit of a shot from Pat Narduzzi, but turns out you were right. You look back at last season, blowout losses to Notre Dame and Clemson. This is my take. Their defensive stats are built against the lesser likes without good quarterbacks and teams with losing records. Against the good teams, the defense didn't stack up.
Yeah, last year was a disappointing football season, I believe. They came into the season with high hopes, because they had these guys who they thought who are NFL players. But then, the second day of practice, Jalen Twyman opts out. 7 weeks into the season after the Notre Dame game, Paris Ford opts out. And they did have some great efforts by their bookend defensive ends, Patrick Jones and Rashad Weaver, who are going to get drafted high. But the disappointing part of the season for me, Ed, is all these NFL guys, Weaver, Jones, Ford, and Twyman didn't play. But they had a lot of other good players. Kenny Pickett is one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC, I believe. They still barely had a winning record. I think that Pat Narduzzi expected more. I think the players expected more. I felt bad for a guy. I felt bad for a guy like Jimmy Morrissey, who's put his heart and soul into this program. Coming in as a walk-on and becoming one of the best centers in the conference, and they end up with a 500 record. And he's another guy who's going to play in the NFL. So they had a lot of talent in that team last season, and to end up like they did just isn't what Pat Narduzzi or his bosses expected.
Well, Jerry, having said that, Narduzzi going into his 7th year, 42-34. Pitt the last 25 years, Jerry, stuck in neutral, stuck in the mud. Just 3 top 25 finishes. Their best in 2009 when they finished number 15. In the last 20 years, at least 18 times, 5 or more losses in the season. Where's this program going? When's it going to finally turn around?
Well, it's a little better, just a little bit better than it was when Narduzzi took over. I mean, they did go to the ACC championship game, a few years ago, and they've had winning records for the most part. 4 out of the 6, I guess, were winning records. One was a 500 record. But I just think that I kind of have some funny feeling about this coming season, Ed. That last game against Georgia Tech, Vincent Davis, the running back, played really well. And again, Georgia Tech's not a very good team. And you were right. They really didn't beat anybody that was really that good. But they have a lot of experience coming back on defense. I really like this linebacker, Savassier Dennis. I think he's going to be a great player. The receivers are very talented. Jordan Addison, had a great freshman season. Pickett's coming back for his 5th year. He should be better than he was last year, and he was pretty good last year. He's gotten a little bit better every year. I think he'll make another jump this season. The offensive line was a problem.
Hey, Jerry, hate to cut you off, running a little bit out of time. So I'm going to ask you this one question before we
Sure.
go. Are you going to vote them preseason top 25 next year?
I'm going to have to wait on that. I took a little heat from the coach last year, but that's okay. Him and I get along okay, but it's way too early. I see these way too early top 25s. Right now, Pitt doesn't seem like a top 25 team, but let's just see what happens, over the summer.
Hey, Jerry, thanks for joining us. Always good talking with you, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, Ed, thank you.
I'll be right back with Ellen George. I am back, joined to my right by the Swami, George Abraham, to my left by the Tiger, Albert Campman. Let's go to Spotlight Basketball top scores as we end the final week of the season before playoffs start on the 27th of February. Devin Carney of Butler, he had games of 47, 41, and 36 points in the 74-71 overtime win versus Pine Richland. He had 47 of Butler's 74 points. I was at the game. And guys, no disrespect to the other players on the team, but at times it was 1 against 5. He did whatever he wanted to do, took a step back, launched a 3, drove, laid the ball in, had a couple of dunks. He's just taken over, and Butler's won 5 in a row. They're a real hot team right now, maybe a team no one wants to play in the playoffs. They're 10-7 on the season, 5-6 in the section, but 1 to go, and he's been the driving force.
Pass driving force. He's the dynamic player in the WL, no question about it. Scoring machine. I remember George calling me last year with the great Ethan Morton. He said, "Listen, Carter can get a basket anytime he wants."
He saved them in the playoffs.
He gets it, and he's continued on this year.
But I'm not hearing anything about in the way of recruiting news.
No, he's got offers.
Does he have in Division I?
Absolutely.
Okay. He's averaging close to 31 a game right now. He did it all. If they came out on him, he took a step back, launched a 3. They got too close. He drove by him and laid it in. Michael Conley of Beaver Falls, 35. Michael Wells of Newcastle, 25. Levi Orton, AC Valley, 25 and 35. Chase Bailey of Karn City had games of 24 and 20 and the 20. That makes him the all-time leading scorer in Karn City basketball history with 1,566 points. Caden Rainey of Union, Reimersburg, 24. Steve Antuono of Elwood City, 24. Joey Petcash, Pine Richland, 23. Greg Habib of North Allegheny, 23. Connor Lysik, Seneca Valley, 22. David Leslie of Butler, 22. Ethan Plesikoff of Slip Rock High School, 20. Luke Shanahan, Pine Richland, 20. J.D. Azule, Rochester, 20. And congratulations to Butler's Maddox Clement. His 16 points versus Pine Richland gave him 1,000 in his career. And how about this all-around effort with a big man, Nathan Waltman, the 6'5 center at Karn City. He had 16 points, 15 rebounds, and 11 assists in a win for the Gremlins. For the girls, Alexis Robinson of Rochester, 32. Jayla Kizzert of Beaver Falls, 30. Corianne Hauser, Rochester, 26. Olivia West of Seneca Valley, 20. And in bowling, the Western Pennsylvania Interscholastic Bowling League Team Championship, North Allegheny 2, Butler won the best of 3 championship roll-off. This was North Allegheny's first ever team bowling championship. And Butler's Rocco Rice, he rolled a 722. And the Butler girls, they also finished second in the playoffs. In swimming, Seneca Valley boys, listen to this, guys. They defeated Butler 186-109 to win the Section 2 3A title with a perfect 10-0, 6-0 record. Seneca Valley's victory ended a 30-year run of section titles by the North Allegheny boys.
Seneca Valley.
30 straight years.
Seneca Valley coming on.
Seneca Valley coming on.
They've ruined North Allegheny streaks in a couple sports.
Yes. David Bocci of Butler had 3 winning events, and High Hand Zoo of Seneca Valley. He was a 3-event winner. And the Seneca Valley girls defeated Butler 223-87. Kendall Craig for Seneca Valley, a 3-event winner. And Natalie Double and Alyssa Olshansky of Slippery Rock High School, they were 3-event winners in a victory over Titusville. Olshansky had 3 more versus Sharon, and Double, she had a personal time best in the 500 freestyle versus Sharon. The Slippery Rock High School girls finished 9 and 4. Our basketball power rankings: boys 6A, Upper St. Clair, Fox Chapel, Hempfield, Pine Richland, and Penn Trafford. North Allegheny started off the section 8-0. They lost their last 4 section games. 2 of them they struggled to score 50 points. Butler beat them 78-75 behind 36 points from Devin Carney. This is a team that's lost its confidence.
Well, when the other team's allowed to have 6 on the floor, that doesn't help.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you, Eddie, do you know if there's any injuries or something?
No, everyone that I know has been playing.
Man, it's amazing what
for
they
them.
did to change. They went from up here to down here so quickly.
Butler swung.
Yeah, Butler had people
Yeah,
come back.
Butler was
They-
1-6,
Yeah.
and then Gratzmiller
Yeah, I said I saw why they come
and
back.
Cranebucker.
Yes.
they came back.
Big dudes.
The thing is with NA averaging 74 points a game, and then suddenly they get beat 60-41 by North Hills, pounded 73-47 by
Yes.
Pine
In
Richland.
the 40s, that's the difference,
They
yeah.
lost 71-70 to Seneca Valley.
That's why I was thinking there might be an injury. That's why I didn't understand how you go
Well,
from one.
I
Go from
noticed they
80,
only play 6 players a game.
Okay.
6 or 7. That's all they play. Butler, hot team right now, back-to-back wins over Pine Richland and North Allegheny. In 5A, Char Valley, Laurel Highlands, Newcastle Highlands, and Mars. Highlands sweeps the series from Mars. In 4A, it's Bell Vernon, Quaker Valley, North Catholic, Lincoln Park, and Montour. In 3A, Shady Side Academy, Neshannock, South Allegheny, Avonworth, and Aliquippa. In 2A, undefeated Olsh, followed by Karn City, Greensburg Central Catholic, Fraser, and Stowe Rocks. And in 1A, Eden Christian, Bishop Canavan, Imani Christian, Rochester, and Union. And for the girls, North Allegheny at the top in 6A, followed by Upper St. Clair, Mount Lebanon, Bethel Park, and Norwin. Trinity, number 1 in 5A, followed by Char Valley, Woodland Hills, Hampton, Latrobe, and Slippery Rock High School. Trinity, we're going to call them the Streak Killers. They stopped Char Valley 60-some straight wins, and then last week they toppled North Allegheny, broke their 30-game winning streak, beating them 59-56. Maybe they're the best team around.
They are. They are. There's no maybe to it. They are the
Yeah,
best team around.
beating teams, Char Valley and
Yes.
NA. In 4A, Beaver undefeated, followed by Knock, Quaker Valley, Southmore, and Blackout. Knock stuck at 7-1. They've had a number of games canceled due to COVID.
Tough. I watched the game the other day. American had played 16, or Navy, and the team they played played 5.
Yeah, and the high school teams getting your rhythm going into the playoffs is pretty hard to do when you only played 8 games and you're going against teams that played 17 and 18 games.
Al was shut down for 2 weeks and they never played. They came back and beat Beaver Falls, which was a great win.
And in 3A, it's North Catholic, Mohawk, Brentwood, Laurel, and South Park. In 2A, Sarah Catholic, Neshannock, Burgettstown, Winchester, Thurston, and Olsh. And in 1A, Rochester, West Green, Eden Christian, Aquinas Academy, and Clareton. Our stories of the week: who's hot? The Pens are hot. They won 4 out of the last 5 in a 3-2 win over the Islanders. Sidney Crosby, it marked his 1,000th career game. He's the only player in Pens history to reach that milestone, and he was honored for it. When you look at Crosby and his 15 years, it's hard to say that with the Pens. He is a model for all athletes how to handle himself and comport himself.
I thought that was his greatest award. There's so many people that want to jump on these Hall of Famers after 1 year and 2 year. No. 15 years later, Stanley Cups, one team, bow down this, and like you said, he does everything the right way too. Amazing you play 1,000 games for one team these days. That's unheard of in any sport, really.
Humility's the one word that
Beautiful,
comes to
yeah,
mind.
beautiful.
I watched that night and I thought to myself, I said, of all the guys, never one boastful word. They'll deliver season tickets. He'll knock on the door.
And his personal life's quiet. He's not in any of
Nobody
these
know-
Twitter
no,
stuff or
no.
and anything like that. You just admire him. You wish more players would emulate what he does. Hey, the Pens are 9-6-1, getting some great goalie play from Tristan Jarry, who had 33 saves, and Pens defenseman newcomer Mike Matheson, who's really stepped up his game and helping the Pens out.
As I said last week, don't jump in hockey. Don't jump on somebody. Don't jump off somebody. Let it play out, because whoever's hot coming in the playoffs has a chance to win, especially this year. Tampa Bay last year was the best team all the way through. It's wide open.
They went from 5th to 2nd in a 4-game series.
That's how things can happen.
Uh-huh.
And we know it's shorter now. As you said last week, there are only 40 games left.
Yeah. Every game's important too.
You get hot goalie. Jarry's been hot.
He's been playing.
You get that hot goaltending, and they have good players. It isn't like they can skate. And the Matheson kid you thought can really skate. They're dangerous. Pittsburgh's
And
always
give Sullivan
dangerous,
credit for sticking with Jarry. A lot of people right away, as soon as he has a bet, they want him out of there. Get rid of him. You just can't do that unless you want to destroy a guy's confidence.
Goaltending especially. It's all based on confidence. They're all great.
Yeah.
Some of them are more confident, and he's confident right now.
It's a lot like your field goal kicker. He misses
Exactly.
one, and you go, oh, wait. If you start harping on him, it's not going to help the
That's
situation.
why Georgia and me cannot coach football.
We said no.
Yeah.
Because we want to cut that guy when he doesn't
The
make a field
kicker
goal.
missed one. I said, now we don't have a kicker. Hunting and golf. You better think you're going to make it.
Jimmy Johnson, one thing he said, he never said a word to the kicker before he went in to kick a field goal. Never said, and he never said to a running back, hold on to the ball. He said, as soon as you say that, they fumble. He never
Put
talked
bad
about
thoughts
this.
in your mind. The mind plays a major part. George mentioned golf. We talked about Tony Feeney the other day. He's a great golfer, never wins, because he's in his mind, he can't get over the hump.
Somehow on Sunday, he's doing something that's going to cost him. Now, he plays well. Now, for 71 holes, he'll have one hole where he'll get a 7 or an 8, and it's over.
It's just happened with the Shark.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he was the all-timer.
He
Greg
looked
Norman,
like
yes.
at times he was
Kid
one
Cup.
of the
He looked like
all-time
Kid
greats.
Cup on that one.
And then that one
Yeah.
hole did him in. Major League Baseball spring training, this huge roster, the Pirates bringing 37 pitchers to camp and 34 position players. To me, I can't remember them ever bringing that many players into camp before. Maybe I missed out on that. Do you remember them bringing that many before? 37 pitchers?
Because they're taking a look at a lot of kids. I call them kids, who are just getting ready.
I only recognize a few of them.
Yeah, and so that's what they're doing. And Pirate fans are going to hope that Charrington has a 3-year plan. Like 3 years from now, if you're a Pirate fan, you're hoping that all these prospects they got at once play into that three-season run they have. That's what you're hoping.
Well,
As long as they control them.
Yeah.
Once they lose the control,
They lose
now
the
you have
player.
to hope he's serious about investing, and that's what we want to see.
Well, let you guys bring it up. Here, Charrington says his plan is to follow the blueprint of recent contenders, accumulate talent, develop the talent, and he makes reference to what the Dodgers and Tampa Bay Rays have done. Will this work for the Pirates? Because once you develop them, as you said, now you're ready to throw some extra money into the pot and get that extra player you need to get over the hump, as the Dodgers have done and can well afford.
I have to have him explain to me any similarity between Tampa and the Dodgers,
There's none.
because I don't see it.
I don't see
I
it
see
either.
300 million.
He was
favor.
drinking vodka that day. I said it twice.
I think if he would have said
Yeah,
Tampa
well,
and
I-
Cleveland would have been a better
Yes,
comparison.
Cleveland would have been a great
But he
comparison.
threw the Dodgers. Oakland, in the way
Not
they do it.
the Dodgers, they went out and spent 40 million
what we
for
said,
one guy.
Trevor Bauer's is going to make more money than the Pirates
And in
payroll
2 years
this
he
year.
can leave.
He might be talking about prospects, because Dodgers had a great farm system. But at that point, it stops. From prospects to spending major league money.
And then getting those pieces we go back to, once again, 2015. They won, 95 games that year or something. And then we thought, wow, they need another pitcher. And they went the other direction. They got rid of everybody.
Right. That's the Pirates.
So it doesn't do any good to develop these players unless you're going to pitch in the pot and make that move to go to the next level.
And if you're small market, you have to, I'll use the word develop. The Dodgers can outspend their mistakes.
That's big.
Pittsburgh cannot.
Yeah, there's a starting lineup out there filled with Pirate starters that we've mentioned before. Hey, Vegas, the over and under and Pirate wins this year is 58. Where do you guys see it?
So it's 58, huh?
Yeah, that's
They'll,
right.
they'll be right there. That's what it'll be. So they're right
That's
on.
104 losses. I always look at it the other way.
No.
That's 104 losses.
I'm going to give them 61 wins.
Whoa!
61, and they're not. Are they playing the full 162?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to give them 61 and 101.
Wow.
That's you're being generous.
I'm
They
being
give you credit,
generous.
Yes.
Only because I think the baseball is so bad.
Gotcha.
Everywhere. Hey, the NFL, start off, I just heard Mike Tomlin, he has COVID. His symptoms aren't severe. Hopefully, he's going to be back at work. He's going to stay at home for a while. But let's go to this issue with Ben. It's coming to an end here come March. Here I'm looking at this situation, thinking you have a new offensive coordinator, Matt Canada. He wants a certain type of quarterback. What's he being told is take charge. This is your offense. Don't let Ben run it. How much of that is being said to them, and can he do that? And then here comes the problem. Mason Rudolph entering his last year. If Ben comes back, you don't get to see what Rudolph can do a 16-year period. He's making $1.2 million. How do you offer him a new contract of any length when you don't know what he can do over a 16-game season? So let me ask you guys this. What's the percentage that the Steelers don't want Ben back?
I'd say about 65, 70. That they can save the money. And things I'm reading on NFL, all over the NFL thing is they want to trade up to number 13, and hopefully one of the two quarterbacks are there, and really the guy they're looking at is Alabama's quarterback Jones. So that's
Mac Jones.
Yes, that's
I
what
thought they'd be looking at the running back.
that's what I'm saying.
Harris.
Now the Roethlisberger, remember that's without Roethlisberger. They need a quarterback desperately. They'll need that.
Well, remember what they told Jerome back in, he was coming back. He was making $6 or $7 million. You want to come back, you get $1 million. Otherwise,
And that's what they're telling him.
congratulations.
They're telling him that.
They're telling.
You have to give us something. And I don't think he wants to.
Well, just you mentioned the draft. The Eagles traded quarterback Carson Wentz to Indy. It's a good trade. I think for both teams it was a fair trade. I think he's going to do much better under Frank Reich than he did in Philadelphia, where he lost his confidence. So do you sign free agent quarterbacks or quarterbacks who want to leave, like Deshaun Watson, and then there's Derek Carr, or do you go through the draft and develop a player and save all that money?
The second part, they have to do it that way, to save the money. The Steelers don't have the money. They don't have the money. What can you say? They blew it on they put all their money in one run, and they're like New England. It's done now, so they have to go the youth movement, whatever you
And
call
the
it.
prevailing attitude is the fans don't realize they're going to have to be bad, not mediocre.
Right.
They need to be bad.
So if Ben comes back and you go 8-8 or 9-7,
You don't want that.
you take a
You don't want
step
that.
back. You take a step back.
No. You take several because now you're messed up with Rudolph.
Hey guys, by the way, I'll finish up here at college football. Mark your calendar. You don't want to miss this game, 2022. Duquesne's going to play Florida State in Tallahassee. That'll give Florida State 2 years of recruiting to get rid of this game.
Yeah, they
this
cannot
would
say
be
they're
a
sick.
payday for Duquesne and a jump up. Narduzzi said before he'd like to open up a season and play Duquesne, so they're going to go to Florida State. There are all kinds of new hires in college football. Gus Malzahn, as we said, let go at Auburn, but he gets 5 years at $2.3 million a year
And they
from
own
Central
17,
Florida.
don't they? Auburn owes them 17
And the
now?
strangest one is Terry Bowden at 64, hired by Louisiana Monroe. He finished up at Akron 0-11.
Yeah, that's the Bowden name.
You know who got him that job? The guy that the announcer that the college football announcer Brando. They're like best
Brando.
friends.
Tim
Yeah.
Brando.
Yeah.
And we go back to the recruiting and the come out rankings. If you find anything, the only surprise I found, the top 10, you had the usual in there, which Michigan getting in there at number 10. Other than that, it's the same old in there again, and more the same. And we're going to talk next week at some point about the license and imaging and who it's going to benefit and profit. But we run out of time. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.